Hi everyone, it's me, Domino SNK.
I am Bombrider.
And I'm Bam of the People.
Yeah, and today we're talking about our favorite clown, Sweet Tooth, the majestic clown of PlayStation All-Stars. And but yeah, so I have the two well-known Sweet Tooth players, Bombrider and Bam, and they're here to talk about where basically the overallness of Sweet Tooth and where he lies in this game, his matchups, his overall gameplay tweaks and buffs and glitches. So going off of that, let's start rolling.
Well, first of all, he's a lot different from most of the other characters, to where his punishes and combo game is actually it's pretty much below average. But I believe the gameplay is supposed to be where he makes up for it in playing footsies and mix-ups, to where he footsies and Oki game. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to knock you down, and then go for mix-ups from there, and it just basically keep you guessing with his heavy pressure game. He basically wants to be in your face at about a short range, because his range options are a little limited. Bam, you want to talk about the matchups?
Yeah, so for the most part, Sweet Tooth, as he said, he's a character that primarily is focusing on getting a knockdown. So once he gets a knockdown, whether from he gets a shotgun or from his shoulder, as he said, he goes ahead for mix-ups. A lot of things, though, is in order to get those knockdowns, he has to be in close. And so there's a lot of characters. For instance, a primary matchup we talk about is versus Kratos. That's a terrible matchup for him because his whole point of his game is to get a knockdown. However, he can't get in close enough without being threatened by Kratos' square attacks. And so because of Kratos' long range, Sweet Tooth has trouble starting up his whole game plan. And so ideally, as Bomb was saying, Sweet Tooth was created initially to be a zoning character, but a lot of his things favor him getting around a knockdown, and so it seems like he's in this kind of weird zone where, for a lot of his matchups, what he's supposed to be doing and how he would get it, he can't really perform it all that well because his tools in order to get that pressure and land a knockdown aren't that great.
So he's kind of like jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, kind of in a way, but then unfortunately his jack of all trades is more of a clown.
Oh my gosh!
So sorry for the pun, but honestly, unfortunately, as a character, Sweet Tooth on the tier list, he's fairly low. He's a character that he has a lot of trouble starting up his game, and even when he starts up his game, there's no guarantee he's gonna get good damage off whatever he's doing because of the fact that he doesn't have super great combos, and so he just goes straight for mix-ups, and if he misses the mix-up, then he has to go ahead again and try to get in so he can maintain that pressure. And so that's his primary issue as a character.
Alright. So essentially, his own game plan himself hinders himself, but it's the only thing he excels at, so he's kind of a contradiction in a way, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the tools that are supposed to be his best tools, when it's compared to the rest of the cast, they only come out about average, because he's very dependent on his footsies. Basically out-poking the opponent. Then you got characters like Kratos and Naruto, like Bam was saying, they pretty much outrange him. And when they outrange him, they get a bit of combo out of it, and they can also punish better than he can. So he's only really effective against a good half the cast to even get up his game plan. And despite these statistics that are only about average, he has a lot of abysmal stats. It really hinders him in that way.
Okay, so guys, going off of that, what are some of can you guys go through the moves that you believe that would help balance out Sweet Tooth and make him have slightly more reward off his game style?
Well, actually, the first idea we kind of agreed on, it was actually an idea that DeBuzz came up with a few months ago, when you were kind of submitting something to Santa Monica. It's actually not his move, but it's actually more about his mobility. It was DeBuzz's idea to increase his ground and air speed by about 10 or 15%. Doing this would actually help him get in on zoners, which he actually has a lot of trouble getting on characters like Cole and Evil Cole. Basically, anybody. Oh, Ratchet. Ratchet's a big one. He just has such a difficult time getting in on them. It also improved his ability to capitalize on the opponent stepping on landmines from just a little bit further. And he actually has an AP burst combo where if he hits with neutral air square, he goes into a stomp and landmine, and then fire clap. It's a really strict combo right now because Sweet Tooth just can't really get to them in time. And get some characters, I don't think it works at all. So I feel like it would let him get an AP burst off of that, and it would just basically improve his overall gameplay just doing that alone.
All right. So you agree fully with that, Bam?
Absolutely. Just the fact, he's a character, as we said, he deals with getting knockdowns and he goes for mix-ups there. And, going for the mix-ups on the knockdown, it's the Okizeme game, the Oki game that we've been talking about. Yeah. And so part of the thing that would help him, punish rolls or anything would actually be his movement speed itself. Oftentimes, even if you may potentially read a roll and you may have quick reactions, because of his movement speed, he may be a little too far to get the proper, to get enough hit stun if they land an air neutral square to actually go ahead and get his level 1 confirmed. Or even they might be too far to the point where he can't get his stomp, which would lead, as Bam was saying, into his AP burst, because what happens, it'll do the trip animation because he's simply too far. And so, again, that would be a huge thing for him as a character, because the main thing, he needs to be able to get in and do pressure. The problem for him is because he can't move in and get put in pressure, or if he's getting pressured himself, he's not fast enough to move away, he just gets in positions where it's supposed to be advantageous for him, and he just gets beat up.
Okay, can I ask one thing about this movement speed? Do you feel like this speed, however, would, can I get a rough estimate of a character close to the speed, just, in terms of comparison? Because 15% might, 15% is quite a bit of improvement, so, if he becomes, the fastest short-hopping monster in existence, that might be a slight issue.
Well, maybe just 10%. I mean, I just threw out numbers, either 10 or 15%. I'm not sure who moves the fastest in this game, to be honest. So,
but it would just be just a slight increase to his jump speed and his fall speed, correct?
Well, no, his ground movement and his air speed.
That's what I mean. For the air, I mean.
Right.
Yeah. So that means that his jump is the amount of frames it takes for him to jump would still remain the same. Right. It's just that he would be able to cover more space.
Okay, I can see how it can benefit from a little bit more airspeed, since, I don't know if you guys are going to mention this, but I'll mention this here, but, his hitbox range is kind of beefy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, I guess it would be somewhat more fair for him, because, he gets hit by everything.
Yeah, well, there's not a combo in the game that doesn't work on him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
There's such thing as Sweet Tooth combos, where
oh my gosh,
it only works on Sweet Tooth because his hitbox or hurtbox rather, when he's in a stun state, it's actually bigger than any other character in the game, except I guess maybe Zeus, because I only heard about this before Zeus came out. So
okay, So the speed basically would be just improve his overall speed by at least 10%.
Right.
Okay.
I think that alone would be pretty major, actually.
So basically, overall increase his speed by 10%. All right, I can see that as I can see that as overall kind of pretty much fair, since big character who gets hit by everything and has fall animation that doesn't benefit him or fall out early for because even Big Daddy can fall out of stuff due to his weird hitbox, but Sweet Tooth gets hit by every combo. So it seems like a good compensation for a mechanic that works against him. So, okay. So going off of that, what other changes do you have for our clown?
Also, we have the napalms. And so we're talking about the napalms actually being increased in terms of AP increased from 5 AP to 10 AP. Of course, the fire trails would still be 5. And then also his machete throw increased to 20 AP from 10 AP. And the reason why those things would be really huge for him is because as he's a character who he's not going to be doing any really AP burst for the most part. He's going to be looking, again, like we said, to get knockdowns, to get in so he can get that knockdown. That's his whole game plan. He's kind of almost like he's a grappler kind of character in a way, where he wants to get in and he wants to pressure you and land a knockdown, and he goes from there. And so the thing about him, however, is a lot of his moves just simply they don't get enough AP for him. And so because of that, again, he has to go ahead and he has to hit more times than a lot of other characters. And again, that because he's not doing it through a straight combo, it gives them more opportunities to reverse him and potentially get even more AP than he ever got after hitting them after 3-4 reads or something like that.
Okay. And the machete, I mean, just to put this in retrospect for people who aren't unfamiliar with this character, the machete has very, very limited range, correct? Like maybe just 2 Sweet Tooth distance, literally.
Yeah, it doesn't have that much range. It's a move basically, like it just has probably, I think on training stage, I think it's 2.5 squares, and it's just an arc. So it doesn't cover all that great of space, but it's good for mid range, and that's one of his primary tools, along with the napalm, in terms of trying to get in safely to a point. So that would be something that would be good if he has that increase. Also for the fire clap as well, to get that move to 25 AP to 20, and then also the first hit of ground square to be from go to 10 AP instead of 5 AP, just simply because there's a lot of his moves that are just unnecessarily low in terms of the AP output he gets relative to other characters, and we believe that would just even the ground in that regard.
Okay, because he's supposed to be kind of like this really meaty pretty much jack of all trades, and it's kind of like basically he's too outclassed in all of his zones to be actually considered a jack of all trades, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I always found it kind of weird that his melee was oddly very low in AP gain, since a lot of his moves seem like they should build a lot more, but they don't. Okay, what else do you guys got?
It would also be kind of beneficial if the hit stun for his napalms and machete throw were increased for the hit stun, because right now it just kind of feels like they just kind of flinch and then just shake it off like nothing ever happened. It basically allowed him to capitalize on. It'd be more than just a pestering tool. You can actually capitalize on it a little better. We're going to talk about maybe 4 or 5 frames of additional hit stun. Just so, because right now, in order to combo from a napalm hit, you basically have to throw it and then immediately jump towards them, just to get anything out of it, really.
So it's kind of just like a super heavy read based thing that it's very high risk, and
it's very high risk. Yeah.
Right, and that's unfortunate because it should be a move what should allow him to get in somewhat safely, but instead he has to take this big risk, and if he fails, then that's it. He goes ahead and he gets punished for exorbitant amount of AP.
Where he would have otherwise gained 5 or 10 AP.
Exactly, and so just the risk and reward on that is just
out of balance.
It's just heavily skewed. Also, he is able to get machete and napalm into his level 1, but at this point, it's something where either it's inhuman reaction speed, you already like hard read that the machete would hit in certain scenarios, or otherwise, like it's literally impossible to actually hit confirm it. Watch it and literally react and do super. There's like basically no way you can possibly do that.
Well, there's also the in twos that your partner to be super synchronized, but that in itself, the small amount of time that the hit's done from the machete or the Molotov give is just way too impractical, even in twos. Correct?
Exactly. So your partner wouldn't even be able to react and see that and go ahead for something. Even in some cases where he could at least use those moves as a terms to get some kind of tick throw, basically getting the opponent to block, and then you can go ahead and grab them out of that. He really can't do that unless, again, he's trying to hard read, because the stun is just so minimal. It's just really hard for him to actually get anything from it. Again, without some huge risk, which is, when that's the primary point of his game, there's something, wrong, and there's something that has to be changed about that. So,
okay, all right, yeah, all right, that works pretty well. What other changes do you have for our lovable clown?
This is probably the most important change for Sweet Tooth, and it's probably going to get a little criticism. I'm going to be honest. But he would greatly benefit from having increased hitboxes for both the ground and air version of his forward and down shotgun. And the reason for this is back what we were talking about is he doesn't have the punish game. Like basically his combo starter is his air neutral square, right? Mm-hmm. So in order to get off, and the opponent has to be on the ground to do this. So in order to jump off the ground, that's 10 frames right there. Then you got the startup frames of the actual attack. So, it's probably somewhere between like 6 and 10 frames. So there's not many moves that's going to be that punishable for Sweet Tooth. So he already has a pretty extreme weakness right there.
Well,
so
along with the fact that many players know that if Sweet Tooth jumps in the air, like 8 out of 10, he's going to usually do a machete, for instance, and he's kind of linear in a way as well, correct?
Right, but I'm kind of talking like in the instance of if say Hayashi does his forward square and you block it, right? That's punishable. Many other characters, if they block a move that's generally unsafe, they're going to punish with an AP burst or a kill confirm. Sweet Tooth, on the other hand, his real option is to get either his shoulder charge or one of his shotguns. So he's only going to get 20 or 30 AP, whereas other characters are going to get like 130 AP to 150 or even a kill confirm. So already he has an extreme weakness with nothing really to make up for it. And, as we said before, he's very dependent on his footsies.
Right.
His poking. He needs the opponent to respect the range of his pokes. When you have characters like Kratos and Naruto, they outrange him, so they don't have to respect him, so they can just do up square, up triangle, and beat him every time. So he kind of needs to have a better poking game than them, since they can combo and he can't.
Oh, I get it. So he's more kind of like they may be able to do the old 1-2 punch combo,
right?
So he should be able to just get a big punch, and even if it resets the situation, it should just reward him, since he's not combo heavy, he's more of a punisher. Okay. Just for the sake of this, would you increase his cooldown of the shotguns though, to make sure it's just not like, oh, I'm just gonna shotgun you every chance I get because the range is bigger.
Well, that is interesting, because I know his air down shotgun. You can actually, from a full jump height, you can do it from the air, and then double jump, and then do it again a second time, and maybe even a third time. So the recovery on that move is very low. So I think that would be a fair
trade-off.
Yeah, a fair trade-off if it was just if the hitbox was increased. Then it'd be justified to increase the cooldown a little bit, just so he doesn't become too strong as a result of that buff. His forward shotgun still has
considerable. Yes, the forward shotgun does have considerable shotgun, but I was mainly referring to the down shotgun.
Right. That'd be fair enough.
Okay.
I mean, a fair exchange.
The thing is, we went over in the Sir Dan podcast that the changes to which he should if these changes are implemented, Sweet Tooth won't have to worry about that issue because as we said in the Sir Dan podcast, that they should just change it rather than just 3 of any projectile type. It should just absorb a certain amount of AP instead. So in a way, Sweet Tooth wouldn't really this. It would no longer really invalidate him anymore since he can just do a shotgun and then another shotgun to break it, and Sir Dan would get his AP and you would get the butt stun. So it would be pretty much fair trade-off. The difference would be, of course, when to use shotgun so he doesn't have time to refresh, and when does Sir Dan just get back away so that he doesn't get butt stunned. So so hopefully if these changes are implemented, that Sweet Tooth won't, the shield thing might actually not even become an issue, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that would help Sweet Tooth a lot, actually, because from there, if he causes Sir Dan to go into a butt stomp, he can just use his level 1 from there, since it's one of the faster ones in the game.
Right.
So, yeah, that'd work out, actually.
Okay. How do you agree with that, Bam? Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's something that would be the primary issue, in terms of the shield. And so if they change the dynamic of the shield, then of course that would change majority part of that matchup. That matchup would be still, potentially in Sir Dan's favor, but I think it would be something where it's far more balanced instead of just being, polarizing the total matchup. So, yeah, definitely that would be great. And then again, as a whole, as he was saying, in terms of the forward and down shotgun, having those moves be with the larger hitbox would again make it easier for him as a character to pressure, and it would reward him for getting in instead of still being at a disadvantage at times, even when he's near an opponent, which is huge.
Okay.
Also, wanted to talk about Sweet Tooth's neutral triangle.
Sure.
And so, looking at that, if they would go implement
to fill in people, neutral triangle, what move is the neutral triangle?
So the neutral triangle is his chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we would do is, if you were able to make it Sweet Tooth move 2 to 3 times faster with his neutral triangle, then, and in addition to that, add 20 armor to the move. Ooh. The move again would be able to, it would be a move, just kind of a knockaway move to help him again with dealing with pressure, because again, this character as a whole really gets pressured hardly by a lot of opponents. Even with his even with having a mine as an option.
The one issue I see with 20 armor is that 20 armor is enough for him to just run through mines.
Well, the thing about his neutral triangle is it's extremely, right now it's extremely slow, and it's extremely punishable on both block and width. It's probably one of the most punishable moves in the game. So basically, I feel like the way it should be used, if this were implemented, is it'd be like a reverse, kind of a get off me, a reversal, so to speak.
So kind of like a crash spin?
Right. But if the opponent reads it and they block it, then they get a free punch. You deserve to be punished for that.
True. And so how would this move apply in midair, since, triangle on the ground is the same as triangle in the air?
Well, the big thing about Sweet Tooth is his air game is already pretty good. So, it's really his ground game is where he has a lot of problems at, and it's basically when he's having to block, for example, just attack that has very low disadvantage or neutral on block.
Right.
He doesn't really have a good way to escape that. But so basically, his air version can just be left alone. It doesn't need armor because there are not many moves in the game that have armor on the air attack.
Okay, it's just that I was kind of worried about, that this might just turn Sweet Tooth into one of those characters that just can literally just drop on a mine and just use this move.
No. If you did that, you just blow up.
So, would you still have the move hit multiple times, or would you just have it hit once and launch away regardless? Because, I mean, he swings the chainsaw around, so would you just make the whole chainsaw swing one big active hitbox, or would you just make it so, like, if they get caught, they get hit a little bit, and then they get launched?
I think it'd be the same as it is now, where it's multiple hits, but then it launches. Would that be... would be better for the other... I mean...
I'm trying to think of the armor physics on moves with armor, and generally moves with armor, they only hit once.
Yeah, that's true. So, they can change it into a move that only hits once, because right now, it's just there. It doesn't really do anything for Sweet Tooth's gameplay.
Right, and it's unfortunately one of those. It's to be dreadfully honest, it's kind of a useless move, and no character really should have a useless move in their arsenal. So, okay, that works out. All right, lay it on me, guys. What else you got?
So also too, we're dealing with the second hitbox of his neutral square.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times his neutral square combo, at times, even when the first hit connects, the second hit will actually whiff.
Ooh.
And so, the thing is, because of that issue, a lot of times he can just be outright punished. And so we're thinking of going ahead and making it that if the hitboxes increase, obviously it would remove that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to make the move, not completely safe, but something that is relatively safe, so it could basically improve the nature, like the reason to use this move, because right now it has a really poor risk and reward ratio, again, as we've been talking about, which seems to be a huge issue with Sweet Tooth in general. And so if you go ahead and hit with a neutral square combo, you don't really get all that much AP for it. However, if you go ahead and do it and it whiffs, you get hard punished. You get, people can go ahead and get an AP burst. Some characters can get a kill confirm off you. It just simply isn't worth it at all for him in general. And so, just being able to make it a move that, again, can be somewhat used in close, that is somewhat safe, and actually will combo, which is a huge thing, would benefit him a lot as a character. And it would go along with the whole idea to maintain that when Sweet Tooth is in close, he's a somewhat strong character, rather than having him a character who is average or below average at best when being in close, when that is the nature of his game.
So, you would but of course you'd still leave it just as punishable if you just throw it against a blocking opponent, correct?
It'd still be punishable in general, so he can so obviously there needs to be some kind of risk along with the move,
right?
But initially, as it is right now, it is a move that a lot of characters, as I said, can get. It's not just them getting a simple 40-50 AP combo. It's something where a lot of characters can outright get a full-on AP burst or a kill confirm. So to make it to a point where it's less punishable on block, but again still relatively punishable, would make it a decent risk reward move.
Okay, and it'd just be basically it basically standardized his quote unquote jab along with the other characters, correct?
Exactly.
Alrighty. Yeah, I kind of like that. Okay, instead of saying my usual line, I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. What would you change to his shoulder tackle? The side square.
Well, we actually discussed this. Originally, we were talking about maybe increasing the range, but we kind of decided it's already a pretty good move to the point where it doesn't really need any changes.
Oh.
It does its job, so
okay.
I can't really complain about it.
Yeah.
Well, joke's on me then. Go figure.
Yeah, it's one of the few moves in his arsenal that covers a decent amount of range, has a good hitbox on it. If you use it low to the ground, you can use it as a spacing tool.
Ooh.
And so, so it's basically like he was saying, it's basically a dash for him. So he's able to use it as a back dash, forward dash kind of move. So if used properly, that move is fairly good. And of course, it does net him a knockdown on a grounded opponent. And if people are low in the air and you get them with a shoulder, it does set him up for. It does put him in an advantageous position where he can actually go ahead and potentially, lay on that pressure or get that knockdown. So the move as is actually it's a pretty good move, and plus with the improvement with his ground and air speed, as we were talking about, I think that alone in itself will kind of buff that move in general, because he'll be able to cover more space, especially with his air dash, because he'd obviously be moving faster in his initial jump before he does his air shoulder.
Alright. Okay. So basically it's one of his key moves that's pretty much for the most part was actually pretty fine to begin with, correct?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
It works in every matchup, so...
Yeah.
So, a big problem that, the next problem that Sweet Tooth kind of has is a little bit stage dependent, especially with stages with platforms, because, if you think about his napalm and machete throw, they're arcing projectiles. So, if you have an opponent that's under a stage, under a platform, you're not really going to harass them with your projectiles because your projectiles don't go through them. So, one change we were thinking about is allowing the machete throw to pass through platforms. So,
so basically, it would be just a move that can just pierce platforms then, rather than get jammed in them.
It'd be very similar to Evil Cole and Cole's down triangle, because those go through platforms. It also helps to add a little difference between the napalm and machete throw, since their purpose is a little bit similar. So this will allow Sweet Tooth to throw napalms that will hit above the platforms, and machete throws that will go below the platforms.
Okay, so segueing into the next move, Bam.
Okay, so something else we're actually talking about. I think everyone knows by now that Sweet Tooth's level 2 is actually one of the worst level 2s in the game by far. You look at some of the level 1s in this game, and they actually outright are better than Sweet Tooth's level 2. One that comes to mind automatically is Cole's level 1. And it's just all around, it's just not a great move. It does combo into a mine, however, the position that you need to be in at times, and in certain cases, he's just unable to get there in time. Also, too, he does have a neutral. He has a air neutral square to the trip to the mine. Then he can go ahead and do his level 2 for a kill confirm. However, it doesn't work on all characters, and that too also has a very, very strict timing. He actually loses a lot of his kill options simply by having his level 2 as opposed to a level 1, and his level 1 is exponentially cheaper. So one thing we're looking at is actually to improve him greatly would allow his level 2 to combo into an up throw. And so if you allowed his level 2 to combo into an up throw, it actually warrants losing a multitude of level 1s for this character. And it actually goes again and complements his style of being a pressure in close character. Which Sweet Tooth is. You could just basically slightly increase the speed and the vertical blast radius, and it would go ahead to it would allow it to be a combo move, a combo from up throw, which would be a big thing.
Just curious, how much faster are we talking here? Because I feel like this move in 2s actually isn't that bad in 2s, at least.
In 2s in itself, actually, it really, even in 2s, it's really not that good, to be honest. I mean, it's still fairly slow for a level 2. Its blast radius isn't that great. Yes, you can get some multiple kills off it, but like I said, because the blast radius itself isn't that great, it's still not that good, and it's kind of hard unless you're obviously, right next to your teammate and they're comboing someone, for the most part, to go ahead and just get a kill from it. Especially compared, again, if you look at some of the level 1s in the game that they can fulfill that same role, if not better. And so that's the kind of issue. And Sweet Tooth's level 1, while it does have some good uses, it's not like the greatest level 1 in the world either. And so if you just look at that, usually, if you look at the rest of the cast, the majority of the time, the level 2 is something that just can combo into more options, and is something that is, you have to fret when someone has level 2 in this game, because that usually means it's somewhat a guaranteed kill. Some characters even guaranteed 2 kills. Sweet Tooth, on the other hand, his opponent is actually, breathes a sigh of relief when he gets a level 2, and that alone is saying something for that character. And so if you were allow him to be able to combo that from his up throw, then he would go ahead and he would be able to. It would fulfill his role as being a strong pressure character and in-close character. Kind of like a kind of grappler of this game, which he kind of is playing out to be.
Okay. So for like a reference, like how quickly would you increase like the rocket speed? Like would you have it like move kind of as quickly as the speed as like Cole lobbing a missile, or just slightly faster?
I would say probably around that speed. I mean, again, also something they could do is just give the up throw slightly more hit stun. I mean, from that range, he really doesn't get much from up throw anyways. Maybe if they increase the up throw hit stun slightly, he would also get a fire clap. But for the most part, he wouldn't really get anything much from that. So he would either get his level 2, or like I said, maybe get a fire clap from that. So that's another option they can look at instead of actually increasing the like overall speed of the rocket. Now I do believe that the speed of the rocket like starts up should be boosted. Like a lot of level 2s, they have a instant super freeze, so it comes out the moment the super freeze is over. For him, it takes a slight there's a slight delay before it actually comes out, and that's initially what I'm looking at in terms of increasing the speed.
All right. Let me see. So, Bomb, do you agree with what Bam said about which one would you take, Bomb? Increased hit stun off the up throw to make level 2 more viable, or would you just overall increase the rocket speed in itself?
I think like a combination of both actually would do Sweet Tooth a great amount of deal. Like, I really feel like Sweet Tooth's level 2 is literally a downgrade from his level 1, and it really should be the opposite. He should be having more options rather than less options from going from level 1 to level 2, like almost every other character in the game.
Just curious, is it possible? It's possible to literally jump in on Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth activates level 2, and they can just dodge it on reaction, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of
I would compare it to let's say you're Parappa and you have your level 2. If they dodge it one time, your super just ends. Like, it doesn't usually work that way for many of the supers. Like, it's usually an option that it's almost a guaranteed kill usually, because you work so hard to get that much meter.
Right. So basically, it's like you work for the level 2, but the payoff is essentially lower than if you just stuck with the level 1s.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's considered a valid strategy to intentionally run into Sweet Tooth's landmine so he gets his level 2, so you don't have to worry about his level 1. I mean, I've had people do that to me all the time, and I usually lose as a result.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so level 2 potentially increase the hit stun of up throw to make and or increase the rocket speed itself. Okay. Let's see. What else is there after the level 2? After the level 2 tweaks.
Do you want to say it?
Yeah, I can go ahead. Also, we're talking about in terms of allowing a Sweet Tooth level 3, his machine gun, to pass through platforms. This is just one minor tweak. I think that there's just a lot of instances of these things that just simply don't go through platforms for whatever reason, and especially when you actually look at the entire stage list, whether you're doing free-for-all, 2-on-2, or 1v1, you're looking at the stage list, there's a lot of places where someone, if this is the case, someone could just simply just jump on a platform and be like, oh, okay, good, well, I'm safe from virtually everything, and I can react to, I'm safe from the machine gun, and I can react to everything else. And so we just thought that was a certain issue that should be addressed, especially for a character like Sweet Tooth, where he doesn't have, really any AP burst combos. He has some, but they're very, very few and far between. A lot of them are situational. And again, he has to work so hard for that level 3, to get to that point. A lot of times he will not reach there if he's just gunning for level 3, to be honest. But even if he does eventually get there, you should be rewarded. And something as simple as just jumping on a platform to mitigate, his ultimate option in his level 3, his sweet bot mode, really just doesn't make any sense in our opinion. And so we definitely think that should be addressed as well. So that should be allowed to pass through platforms.
Can you give an example of a stage where this happens?
Time station.
Okay.
There are platforms everywhere, so it's like, you can try and kill 2 or 3 people, and pretty all they have to do is stand under the platforms, which pretty much forces you to walk towards them. And the problem with that is Sweet Bot, the name of the level 3, has really telegraphed melee. He's all about the ranged attack, really.
Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty fair. I mean, it seems pretty silly that, giant caliber machine gun bullets don't phase through platforms. Okay.
Yeah.
For all his tweaks done, can you guys just list any glitches that Sweet Tooth might have?
Yeah, there's actually this is actually a pretty funny glitch in that if let's say you're playing like time time limit. You have your level 2 and you activate it right as the match ends and it goes into overtime. The missile will still be out and you can get a free kill on someone who just respawned. And every other level 2 in the game pretty much just ends once overtime goes into play. So a lot of people joke that this is really the only practical use for the level 2. As a joke. But
regardless, it still should be fixed because it's just a silly mechanic.
No other level 2 does that, so...
Okay, alright, what else?
This is actually something Blue Balls mentioned to me. Often when you do your down throw and you have a landmine behind you, it's pretty inconsistent as to whether or not the landmine actually causes the opponent to launch or not. So it would actually be beneficial if it was made more consistent so that it would launch every single time.
Okay, that might be a hitbox issue, but I mean, it might be a hitbox issue or netcode issue, but it's still something to be looked into, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that seems to happen even when someone is literally right on top of the mine. So, again, that maybe it's a certain netcode thing, but it's definitely something that needs to be looked into.
Alrighty. Any last glitch?
There's one more glitch, and it's a very strange one. It's so if you go to the top of your jump and you throw the machete throw, and it hits the opponent, and then you do your shoulder charge before you hit the ground, the shoulder charge actually won't... one of 2 results will happen. Either the shoulder charge won't hit them at all, but it will push their body as if, as
it just
moves forward.
It would just nudge them. So it would just nudge them. Okay.
But it does it combo. The other result is particularly strange to where it seems to generate... it hits them, but it doesn't really knock them anywhere. And it generates a strange amount of meter. Like, it gives them like 6 AP instead of like 20.
Okay, yeah, that definitely does sound like just a straight up legit glitch.
Yeah, it's not something you ever use, but because it's so situational, but it's
just a scenario that may actually happen, so it's just something to be definitely looked into. Okay, does that wrap it up for glitches, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, I think that, we've reached the end of our Sweet Tooth podcast. It's a little lengthy, but there's a lot of stuff to go into with characters that are perceived to be lower on the tier list than others. So keep that in mind, people. As well, also remember that these podcasts are meant to inform you guys, let players who have spent months of their time, months of time playing with this character, finding out how they function, their nooks and crannies work. So share this with your friends or other people that you believe that would that might want some insight on the on Sweet Tooth and for this upcoming patch in the fall, so we can get more unified about what we should be asking for, insights of how moves should be changed so that It's not overbearing, and at the same time not underwhelming. And yeah, I think that concludes our podcast. So that was me, Domino SNK.
I'm Bombrider.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Bam of the People.
Yep, and we'll catch you later. Bye, people.